Whispers of Arrogance in the Tropic Night. August 7, 1942, 200 hours. The humid black of iron bottoms sound off Guadalcanal's jagged coast. Salt spray lashes your face like 1,000 invisible whips. The air hangs thick, a stew of diesel fumes and rotting fronds from the unseen jungle shore. Your Lieutenant Commander Frederick Moosebrugger, skipper of the USS Little Wait, no, not yet. Tonight you're not even in the fight. You're deep in the belly of the Imperial Japanese Navy flagship Yamato, her massive hull groaning like a slumbering beast as she anchors in the shadowed lee of Savo Island. The deck vibrates faintly under your boots, those polished leather ones that mark you as Rear Admiral Kiyohide Shima, one of Tokyo's rising stars in the combined fleet. Around you in the dim red glow of the chart room, a cluster of officers huddles over a salt-crusted map. Laughter ripples first, a low, guttural chuckle from Captain Yoshifumi Tamura, his gold-braided sleeve brushing a flickering lantern. "These American mosquito boats," he sneers, jabbing a finger at a scribbled report from a reconnaissance floatplane. "PT boats, they call them. Wooden toys for children, Admiral." 60 feet of splintering pine, with engines that roar like angry hornets but pack torpedoes no bigger than our sake bottles. The room erupts in mirth, sharp and brittle against the distant thunder of surf on coral reefs. You allow a thin smile to crack your stern features, the kind that doesn't reach your eyes, hardened by years of carrier strikes from the China coast. The reports from the scouts are comical, these PTs dashing in at 40 knots, firing pop guns from their .50 caliber machine guns, then scampering back to their big ship mamas like scolded pups. "They mock our destroyers," Tamura continues, his voice rising with the glee of a man who's just unwrapped a gift. "Our Kagero-class wolves, sleek steel-hulled predators with 127 guns that could vaporize a sampan from a mile out. And these American playthings dare to patrol the slot, that narrow gut of water between Guadalcanal and Florida Island, our private highway for reinforcements." A younger lieutenant, Ensign Hiroshi Tanaka, fresh from the academy, his uniform still creased, leans in, eyes wide. "Admiral, intelligence says they're crewed by boys barely out of high school. Hollywood stuntmen, not sailors. One even rammed a Japanese barge last week and called it a victory." More laughter, this time laced with the clink of porcelain as aides pour sake into thimble-sized cups. The map before you shows the slot like a serpent's throat, 20 miles wide at its mouth, narrowing to ambush alleys choked with reefs and mangroves. Your task force, 4 destroyers, the Udachi, Amatsukaze, and their sisters, will slip through tonight, ferrying 1,000 troops to retake Henderson Field from those cursed Marines who have somehow clawed a foothold on the island. You sip the warm rice wine, feeling its burn chase the tropical damp from your throat. Arrogance? No, this is certainty, forged in the fire of Midway's pyre, where your carriers burn but the emperors will endure. These PT boats are a joke, a desperate Yankee gimmick born of shipyards too bombed out to build real warships. "Let them come," you murmur, your voice like gravel over silk. "Our lookouts will spot their wakes from afar." One salvo from our Type 93 Long Lance torpedoes, those 24-foot monsters carrying 1,000 pounds of hexanite, and their toys will light the night like fireworks for the gods. The officers nod, faces flushed, the air electric with shared disdain. Outside, the Yamato's pagoda mast sways gently, her searchlight stabbing the void like accusatory fingers. But in the distance, faint as a ghost's breath, you hear it, the stutter of engines, high-revving Packards whining against the wind. A scout's voice crackles over the radio. "Enemy small craft, bearing 270, speed 30 knots, PT type, 3 contacts." Tamura snorts, waving it off. "Let the coastal guns handle them. We're ghosts in the slot tonight." Yet as you step to the bridge wing, the humid breeze carrying whispers of rain, a prickle stirs at the base of your neck. Those engines, they're closing, fast, too fast for toys. And in the black water below, something stirs, shadows detaching from the shore, wooden hulls slicing the current like knives through ink. Who are these Americans, really? And what if their laughter in the dark hides teeth? Shadows detach from the mangroves. The radio crackles again, sharper now, slicing through the Yamato's bridge like a bayonet. "Contacts accelerating, Admiral, range 5,000 yards there, flanking the slot's eastern bend." Shima's hand tightens on the rail, the salt-crusted metal biting into his palm. "Flanking? These pests don't flank, they buzz and flee." But the ensign's voice wavers, young Tanaka's composure cracking like thin ice. Outside, the night presses in, a velvet shroud broken only by the phosphorescent wake of your destroyer screen. The Udachi leading, her twin funnels belching faint smoke that mingles with the first spits of rain. You can almost taste it, the metallic tang of storm on the wind, carrying the jungle's fetid breath, overripe papaya and decay from Guadalcanal's fevered shore. The slot isn't a highway tonight. It's a vein pulsing with the Imperial Navy's lifeblood, those 1,000 fresh troops crammed below decks on the Udachi, their rifles oiled, bayonets gleaming in the hold's red light. Victory at Henderson Field demands this run. Admiral Mikawa's ghost from Savo still whisper of easy nights, but whispers lie. Signal the van, you order, voice steady as a katana's edge. Full speed, guns to rapid fire, these gnats won't sting twice. Aboard the Udachi, Captain Tamura grips the pilothouse voice tube, his laughter from hours ago a distant echo. The destroyer surges forward, her 36-knot sprint churning the black water to froth, 127 mounts swiveling like predatory heads. Lookouts strain through binoculars, eyes burning from the glare of hooded battle lamps. Nothing but shadows, mangrove fingers clawing the horizon, reefs like submerged teeth waiting to snag the unwary. Then a glint, moonlight fracturing off a bow wave impossibly close. Starboard bow, small craft 3 no 4, the shout rips from a petty officer, his scope trembling. Chaos uncoils in the dark. Tracers streak skyward from the Udachi's .25 caliber nests, lazy red arcs that illuminate the intruders for a heartbeat. Low-slung silhouettes no taller than a man's height above the waves, their hulls vanishing into the chop like mirages. PT-109, PT-123, names meaningless to you yet dart in at 41 knots, Packard V-12s howling like banshees unchained. Lieutenant John F. Kennedy, all lean frame and Boston grit crammed into his khaki, hunches over the throttles of his Elco 80-footer, salt crusting his lashes, the vibration thrumming through his bones like a second pulse. Steady. Boys, he mutters, voice lost in the roar, pick your targets, make 'em count. These aren't toys, not to the crews who have hammered them together in Honolulu's boatyards, 80 feet of plywood and mahogany, armored with luck and desperation, packing 4 21-inch torpedo tubes apiece. Each Mark VII fish a 2,600-pound hammerhead tipped with 466 pounds of Torpex. The Japanese see specks. Kennedy sees wolves in sheep's clothing, bred for nights like this. The Tokyo Express barreling down the slot to feed the Guadalcanal meat grinder where Marines bleed for every palm frond. His squadron 6 boats tonight under Commander Alan Montgomery, fans out like a noose, engines tuned to whisper at idle, then scream on command. Shell whistles overhead from the Amatsukaze, the destroyer's secondary battery barking in fury, but it plows harmlessly into the mangroves, splintering trunks in a gout of flame. Too slow, too high. The PTs weave through the rain squalls, their wakes crossing like crossed fingers in prayer. Yushima pace the Yamato's wing, fury coiling in your gut as damage reports flood in. Udachi reports near miss astern, enemy craft evading at flank speed. Evading, they're hunting. Tamura's voice booms over the circuit. All ships form on me, we'll run them down like rats. But rats with fangs. From the PT-109's fantail, gunners mate First Class George Barney Ross, a Chicago brawler with knuckles like knotted rope, swivels the twin .50 cal Lewis guns, tracers lacing the night toward the Udachi's bridge. Bullets chew superstructure, sparking off gun turrets, forcing Japanese gunners to duck as glass shatters in a crystalline rain. Kennedy's eyes lock on the destroyer's silhouette. 3,000 tons of steel, floodlit now in panic, her long lances silent in their tubes, too close for oxygen torpedoes, too tangled for a spread. Fire one, he bellows. The starboard tube erupts in compressed air hiss, the torpedo streaking low, a silver shadow hunting the destroyer's vulnerable belly. The Udachi shudders as if struck by gods. A muffled boom ripples the water, orange bloom erupting amidships where the Mark VII bites deep, 20 feet of hull vanishing in twisted metal and steam. Screams carry on the wind, faint but human, troops in the hold clawing for handholds as bulkheads groan. Tamura reels on his bridge, blood from a shard of flying brass trickling down his temple, the laughter choked from his throat. Damage control, flooding forward engine room. But there's no time to bind wounds. Another PT, Lieutenant Henry Hewitt's 123, slashes in from port, her tubes belching fire, a second fish slamming home aft, severing the props in a vortex of bubbles and oil. From the Yamato's radar repeater, the plot blooms like a deadly flower, icons converging, the slot's throat closing. Shima's fists clench. How do wooden ghosts outpace steel leviathans? The rain sheets down now, blurring the chaos into impressionist strokes of muzzle flash and foaming wakes. Another destroyer, the Kawakaze, veers wildly, her deck guns traversing too late as PT tracers rake her crews like divine judgment. Bodies tumble over rails, swallowed by the black. And in the heart of it, Kennedy wipes sweat from his brow, the acrid bite of cordite filling his lungs. One hit. Two. But the Express isn't broken yet, more shadows loom in the downpour, heavier guns warming. Will the mosquitoes sting enough before the wolves turn and snap? Fangs in the foam. The Udachi lists to starboard, her bow dipping like a wounded animal into the slot's churning black, oil slicks blooming around her like ink in water. Tamura claws at the voice tube, his commands a guttural rasp drowned by the shriek of escaping steam. Counterflood, get those pumps online. But the sea has its own voice tonight, a hungry slurp rising through rents in the hull where Kennedy's torpedo has carved its kiss. Below in the troop compartments, Imperial soldiers, conscripts from Kyushu's rice paddies, faces pale as rice paper, huddle in the red gloom, the deck tilting beneath them, seawater nipping at their ankles like cold fingers. One boy, Private Akira Sato, 19 and seasick since Rabaul, clutches his Arasaka rifle, whispering prayers to Amaterasu as the lights flicker and die. From the PT-109's cramped cockpit, Kennedy feels the boat buck under a Japanese shell's near miss, the concussion waves slapping the hull like a giant's palm. Splinters of mangrove torn free by earlier fire pepper the air, stinging like hornets. "Reload tubes, portside now." His voice cuts the din, steady as the New England granite in his veins, while motor machinist mate Patrick McMahon, bandaged from a prior scrape, his hands raw from salt, wrestles a jammed breech, cursing in a brogue thick as Dublin fog. The Packards throb at 3,500 RPM, props cavitating the foam to froth, the boat's 80-foot frame flexing like a bowstring drawn taut. These aren't destroyers to Kennedy, they're bullies in the night. The Tokyo Express's armored fist come to pry the Marines from their bloody perch on Guadalcanal. Aboard the Amatsukaze, screening the crippled Udachi, Lieutenant Commander Masami Sugai peers through the spray-lashed windscreen, his scope fogging with breath. The destroyer's 25-man aircraft guns chatter in futile arcs, stitching the darkness where PT wakes should be. But the Americans are ghosts, their plywood hulls radar silent, low to the wave like sharks' fins. Sugai's mind races back to the briefings. Insignificant, splinter easily under 5-inch fire. Yet here they are, 3 no, 5 now, shadows multiplying in the rain, their .50 caliber hammers raking his deckhouse, bullets whining off armor plate to claim a helmsman who slumps silent over the wheel. Hard as starboard, launch counter-torpedoes, Sugai bellows, but the Type 93s need run-up time, precious seconds in this knife fight. The noose tightens. From the starboard flank, Lieutenant J.G. Alvy Moore's PT-123 surges parallel to the Kawakaze, her tubes aligned in the flash of lightning that rips the sky. Moore, a Texan with a drawl like molasses, grips the firing key, sweat carving rivers down his sunburned neck. God help us if these fish run hot. The order snaps out, fire 3 and 4. And the night ignites anew, compressed air whooshing as twin Mark VIIs leap from the rails, their gyros whining to life, propellers churning at 1,200 RPM toward the Kawakaze's engine spaces. You can almost hear the torpedoes whisper, that predatory hush cutting through 500 yards of chop, depth set shallow to kiss the destroyer's bilge. Impact, the Kawakaze rears like a struck cobra, a pillar of white water erupting amidships, followed by the deep-throated thunder of 466 pounds of torpex detonating in her vitals. Flame blooms orange and vicious, silhouetting twisted girders and crewmen flung skyward, their cries swallowed by the gale. Sugai on the Amatsukaze freezes, the shockwave rocking his ship. Radar scopes blooming with ghosts as secondary explosions chain react, magazines cooking off in staccato pops that light the slot like a perverse lantern festival. Udachi sinking by the head, Kawakaze afire, abandoned ship. The signals officer's voice breaks over the net, panic threading the discipline like rot in silk. Shima, back on the Yamato's bridge a mile astern, slams a fist into the chart table, charts scattering like fallen leaves. The laughter from hours ago, vapor. These toys have teeth, torpedoes that don't miss in the black, crews that fight like cornered weasels. The plot pulses, express disrupted, troops drowning or clinging to rafts in the rain-lashed swells. Guadalcanal's Marines spared another dawn assault. All ships break contact, regroup at Cape Esperance. Your order rings out, but it's retreat wrapped in silk, the slot's highway now a graveyard run. Kennedy eases throttles on the PT-109, circling the Udachi's death throes, his gunners picking off survivors with mercy shots, no, disciplined shots into the water. The air reeks of fuel and fear, the jungle shore a silent witness, fireflies dancing mockingly over the waves. But victory's bitter here in the Solomon's Maw. Amagiri-class shadows still prowl the fringes, heavier guns probing the dark. One more push from the Express and the mosquitoes could yet be swatted. Kennedy scans the horizon, heart pounding like a war drum. How many stings before the hive breaks? Echoes of shattered steel. Dawn creeps over the slot like a thief, fingers of gray light prying at the storm's ragged hem, turning the rain to a miserly drizzle that patters on the waves like spent bullets. The Udachi's corpse floats belly up now, a gutted leviathan 2,000 yards off Guadalcanal's nose, her funnels awash, the sea lapping at exposed boilers that hiss defiance in the swell. Himura clings to a raft's edge, uniform sodden and torn, his laughter from the Yamato's chart room a ghost that mocks him now, splintered by the cold slap of reality. Around him, survivors bob in clusters, 100-odd souls from the 1,000 oil-smeared faces upturned to the light, Arasakas lashed to backs like feudal talismans. Private Sato, the boy from Kyushu, retches over the side, his prayers curdled to sobs as a shark's fin slices the oil sheen nearby, patient as fate. From the Amatsukaze's battered bridge, Sugai stares astern, the Kawakazi a pyre adrift, her hull split like overripe fruit, flames licking the pagoda mast and lazy tongues that paint the mangroves crimson. The destroyer's guts spill black smoke, a signal fire no one wants, broadcasting defeat to the combined fleet's radios back in Rabaul. Casualties 200 estimated, troops lost 800, the signal's petty officer intones, his voice a monotone dirge over the static. Sugai's hands tremble on the binoculars, focusing on the retreating specks, those PT shadows melting into the coastal haze, engines throttled to a predatory purr. Wooden toys, number assassins forged in the devil's own yard, slipping through the net like smoke through fingers. Shima, aboard the Yamato, now steaming north at economical speed, her vast flanks unscarred but pride bleeding freely, receives the tally in the dim operations room. 2 destroyers crippled, the Express's spine snapped before it could strike Henderson Field. The map, once a serpent's promise, now mocks with red pencils circling wrecks. Blackett Strait, this narrow gut-off Kolumbangara, rechristened in blood as a mosquito's feast. You pace the steel deck, boots echoing hollow, the humid air heavy with the scent of unspent cordite and wet canvas. The mockery, it curdles in your throat like bad sake. Intelligence lied or worse, underestimated. These PT boats, birthed from Henry Kaiser's fevered assembly lines in Higgins Yards, weren't gimmicks. They were scalpels for the dark, 77-foot scalpels with 2,500 horsepower apiece, crews of 17 who navigated by stars and spite. Word filters up from the radio shack. Admiral Yamamoto himself, the architect of Pearl, demanding a full debrief, his voice crackling like dry leaves over the ether. How? Explain the unexplainable. Shima's reply is measured, but inside the reversal gnaws a tactical blasphemy. The slot, your unchallenged artery for rats, runs, now a gauntlet where superiority in tonnage means nothing against audacity. The Americans' big ships, carriers, battleships lurk beyond radar's eye, but these splinter fleets, they own the night, turning 40-knot sprints into hit-and-run sonnets of destruction. Tamura, fished from the drink by a patrol boat at first light, will report in person, "Admiral, we fired blind." Their wakes vanished in the chop. One moment ghosts, the next, thunder. Across the divide on PT-109's pitching deck, Kennedy slumps against the chart locker, a cigarette dangling unlit from lips cracked by salt. The boat limps homeward, a gouge from Amatsukaze shrapnel yawning in her starboard side, bilge pumps chugging like asthmatic lungs. McMahon patches a gash on his arm, needle and thread from the first aid kit dancing in the dawn's buttery glow, while Ross polishes the .50 cals, brass casings clinking like wind chimes of victory. 2 fish, skipper, 2 kills on 1 run, Kennedy murmurs, eyes on the horizon where Savo's bulk looms like a judgmental elder. But the thrill sours quick, 3 boats damaged, Ensign Bryant on the 124 nursing a flooded engine, the slots reefs claiming another PT last week in calmer seas. Mosquitoes swarm, some get swatted. Sun crests fully now, baking the decks, steam rising from drying khakis as the squadron rendezvous with the tender USS Jamestown off Chalagi. Cheers from the big ship hands, real cheers, not the jeers Kennedy's endured since training wash over them like balm. But in quiet moments as medics stitch and mechanics curse jam tubes, the truth settles. This isn't glory's end, just a stanza. The Tokyo Express will run again, hungrier with destroyers screening tighter, float planes aloft by dusk. Guadalcanal's clock ticks, Marines holding by threads, Halsey's Task Force 67 probing from Espiritu Santo. One night's Fangs bought time, but the wolves adapt. Shima knows it, Yamamoto demands it. And in Rabaul's humid bunkers, admirals who once chuckled over sake now pore over blueprints, whispering of countermeasures, deeper patrols, star shells to banish shadows. Yet the seed's planted. Mockery dies in the foam, birthing respect laced with rage. The slot's nights will never sound the same, engines will always whisper of wooden wolves. As PT-109 ties up, Kennedy lights that smoke at last, inhaling deep, the smoke curling like a question. How many more stings before the hive claims the throne?